Supply chains in the news. My discussion today with Nick Banich. He is Chief Revenue Officer for USA and Canada and partner with Miebach Consulting. Hello, Nick.
Good to see you, Bob.
Thank you for joining me. So, of course, it is true. Supply chains in the news, big deal right now with so many geopolitical tensions out there, supply chain oriented. How should companies be navigating this environment?
Well, I think it's coming out of the Cold War, right? Friedman's book, The World is Flat, was primarily based on the fact that there was kind of one central pole of power in the United States. I think what we're seeing now is, if you look over the course of full human history, back to there kind of being two poles. And the world is becoming a blue marble again. And I think companies need to start coming to terms with that. Fair trade, free trade, the tariffs are here. They are going to evolve week by week. And I think companies really need to start addressing, with the uncertainty of the specifics, giving rising regional barriers, how can they reverse a lot of what has happened with the lengthening of the supply chain across the globe? The volatility right now has a lot of companies kind of in wait and see mode, but I think this volatility, it's almost like 5 years ago when it was the pandemic and volatility is the new norm.
Yeah.
Those companies that really learned that, hey, design, mapping, understanding the risks upstream of your supply chain, those are the ones that are less frozen than others. And I hope this is an education session once again to all of us that you need to be prepared to pivot quickly, have resiliency, have redundancy in the supply chain, because I think the next 40 years are going to be more like the last 4 than the previous 40 before it.
Even before the pandemic, though, there were warning signs on the horizon. The company should be thinking about this with the tariffs going up even back then, with ideas that we needed to divert some product away from China because of rising labor costs there. So it's not like they were all been saddled with this suddenly yesterday, right?
Yes, and then we all talked about nearshoring, China +1, and we looked at it, we considered it. Some people looked at it sporadically at that moment in time, but really didn't build in the processes, the teams, the technologies to make this part of their core competency to continually analyze not just costs, but for these what-if scenarios and being able to do scenario planning, whether it's in the design space, whether it's in the planning space, but the power of the what-ifs and the scenarios to play around with these levers in a digital sandbox versus let's open the news and see how we're reacting this week.
So it starts with adapting a whole new worldview and then percolating down to that, to actual day-to-day practical things that companies can be doing.
100%.
One of the things they can be doing is taking a close look at artificial intelligence, which seems to be out there being marketed to us as the answer to everything.
Everybody's favorite buzzword.
Is it overhyped? Is it for real? How does AI fit into this whole environment in your estimation, Russ?
So AI is really trying to take the power of data and unlocking it in a way that is beyond just simple heuristics, right? Past performance is not indicative of future results, like every good earnings report says. And really, it's important to understand what are the use cases, because you're right. Every vendor, every technology stack, every good consultant is out there talking about AI and the power of data, really demystifying that, understanding what is your data landscape, what are the use cases for predictive prescriptive analytics, what systems do you already have today that you could leverage maybe in an extended way, so that way you're not having to reinvent the wheel. There are companies out there that have technology stacks that if they were just to leverage the full power of it, they could be introducing machine learning. They could be introducing predictive analytics without necessarily needing to launch an entire science fair project about what is AI and how are we going to use it.
Right. But you also said prescriptive analytics. At AI reaching the point where it's telling us what to do. Is it at that stage yet?
I think the biggest misnomer in artificial intelligence is the intelligence piece, right?
Okay.
Whether you're
The
leveraging...
artificial is okay.
The artificial's there. It's the intelligence aspect of it, right? Are you leveraging machine learning? Are you leveraging large data models to be able to look for things that just would take humans a bit longer to do? And if you're looking at what's being coined as Industry 5.0, it's the intersection.
Wait, I'm not done with Industry 4.0. What is this 5.0?
This is now the intersection of artificial intelligence with the human element.
Okay.
It's a good consultant buzzword, I'll give it to you. But really, what are we leveraging analytics for in order to empower people to make more powerful decisions? Now, I would not just plug data into a machine and say, hey, let's open up a plant here or change our complete inventory strategy, you still need the human element to validate the assumptions, take a look at what the model's prescribing, and does that make sense or not? But there are a ton of ways to leverage analytics. One way to look at it is a lot of companies' continuous improvement teams. Are they actually continuous improvement teams, or are they continuous analytics teams? Right? So how can we take those good industrial engineers that are there to try to drive productivity in the warehouse or production plant and have them implementing projects rather than looking for potential issues and what that root causal analysis is? Leverage the power of data, leverage the power of artificial intelligence to be able to point in the right direction, and then have your human capital actually driving the change versus just crunching numbers away.
Interesting. So what about percolating down a little further, down to the warehouse floor, the distribution center floor? Automated handling, automation, warehouse material handling systems. What's some of the big news there right now?
A lot of people, when they think of artificial or automated storage and retrieval systems, they think of pallet storage at a big giant distribution box.
Right.
And where we're seeing the greatest adaptation in the quickest way is actually at the manufacturing plants. Your labor rates are a bit higher, space is at a premium. Every square foot you can have driving revenue versus storing material, you want to be able to leverage that. So we're seeing a lot of adoption at the manufacturing sites with autonomous vehicles, whether those are AGVs or AMRs, taking a look at moving horizontal line supply, and even now doing vertical lifts as well in the plant attached warehouses. So that way you can have the labor you may have in that small town where your plant's at actually working on the production lines rather than the smaller labor pool, the higher wages, doing what are really low value added activities of moving pallet from point A to point B.
I feel like manufacturing has always been a step ahead of warehousing and distribution when it comes to automation, putting aside conveyor belts and basic things like that that used to be called automation. Wasn't that not the fact that the first robots that came into existence were in manufacturing settings?
For sure, when you talk about the production lines themselves.
Yeah.
But if you step back and treat that as put a curtain up and then look at how the material is arriving off the truck, being stored, being taken down, brought to the lines, taken away from the lines. Again, you put that curtain up over those fancy production lines with those robots, it looks like a warehouse a lot of times out of the 1970s.
Right. The assembly line does not exist in a vacuum.
100%.
Great. Thanks so much, Nick. I really appreciate your insights into this. I want to take a moment to ask you about Miebach Consulting. What's going on with you guys right now? What's exciting news?
Big news for us. We just announced a partnership with InvestCorp, a private equity company that has taken a majority stake in our organization. Us partners, we're still around. We have a large minority stake in the company. We are still managing it from a day-to-day. But just look at what we just talked about. We reached on strategic topics. We talked about digital topics. We talked about inside the plant and operations. There's a lot going on in supply chain. So this partnership is really going to allow us to continue to scale with the needs of our clients in a way that we can still provide the high quality service, the reliability and solutions and recommendations we're giving as supply chain becomes much more interconnected and much more complex. This will allow us to stay on that leading edge while still having the management teams and the leadership that our customers are familiar with a little bit more backing to maybe grow a bit quicker and scale a bit more effectively than we have in the past.
Interesting. We hear a lot more about private equity coming into this space, which only indicates just how crucial and cutting edge it is, and how much of interest it is to investors because of the role it's playing and everything we've been talking about in the last few minutes. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nick, for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Nick Banich of Miebach Consulting. Thank you very much for watching.